Hare Krishna.
Hope you're keeping well.
Yeah, all well, Prabhu, all well.
It's been a long time, isn't it?
Yes, it's a long time indeed.
Okay. Hope everything is well. Okay. Okay. So, as you all know, we will start today chapter 5. So let's chant the prayers. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desatarini. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So
Hare Krishna.
let's see.
Hare
So
Krishna.
on Friday, we have very quickly tried to recap chapter number 1, 2, 3, and 4. Right. So at the end of chapter 4, Krishna says that to Arjuna that you stand and fight back. And also he speaks more about knowledge, right? And it made a bit confusion to Arjuna that shall I work in devotion or shall I renounce the work? So he asks another question. So that starts chapter 5. Okay, so just give me a second. So we will on chapter 5. Let me share my screen. From there we'll continue. So we will be. So hope you can see my screen.
Yeah.
I've maybe zoomed a bit so you can see those things as well properly, right? So this chapter 5, that is again is karma yoga, action in Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada says it's basically this is more or less kind of same goes with chapter number 3 as well. And chapter number 3, Arjuna asks a question to Krishna, and then again Krishna answers these questions. And again in chapter 5, Arjuna asks the same question, similar question, and then it starts Krishna starts explaining what to do, what not to do, and which is better to do, right? So let's see it. Okay. So the context of this chapter 5 is being described as I said, that in chapter, we'll read it out in very first verse. Prabhupada explained that in purport. So the context is Arjuna was still confused, and very important thing is that Arjuna was he was made to be confused, so that the conversation between Krishna and Arjuna is going to somehow or other benefit we all common people, right? So that's why Krishna had confused Arjuna, or somehow or other we can say as Arjuna got confused by Krishna's information that, okay, shall I work with devotion, shall I renounce, or what? Because ultimately Arjuna wanted to renounce, he don't wanted to fight. That was his intention, but somehow or other Krishna engages him in this war of dharma. So let's see the first verse. So this again divided into 5 sections, where in first verse Arjuna asks a question, then Krishna explains about that karma yoga and sannyasa, or renunciation of karma and karma yoga, and again Krishna establishes that working is far superior or better than renunciation. And then Krishna says that by performing niskam karma yoga we can be free from our material bondage, that we have discussed earlier in chapter 3 and as well as in 4 too. And at the end, Krishna talks about liberation in this chapter, right? So let's see the first verse. Arjuna uvacha sannyasam karmanam Krishna punarayogam cha samsasi yashreha etoyor ekam tam me brohi sunishchitam. Arjuna said, "O Krishna, first of all, you asked me to renounce work, and then again you recommend work with devotion. So now will you kindly tell me definitely which of the two is more beneficial?" So in chapter 4, and just by concluding chapter 4, Krishna in last 41 and 42 words, Krishna he speaks about transcendental knowledge, and then at the last verse 42 verse, Krishna says, you fight. Krishna says you fight with detachment as an offering to Krishna, but somehow or other Arjuna got confused and he asked this question. He says, Krishna, please tell me that which is better, working or renouncing work? So that is what sannyasam karmanam. So giving up the work or working with devotion, which one is better? Right. So let's see. Prabhupada nicely explains in this purport the essence of chapter 5. So Prabhupada says in this 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that work in devotional service is better than dry mental speculation. So this is a conclusion of kind of chapter 5. And Prabhupada continues that devotional service is easier than latter or than mental speculation, being transcendental in nature, because devotional service is transcendental in nature. It frees one from reactions. And then Prabhupada gives a summary of chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, and let's see. In the 2nd chapter, preliminary knowledge of the soul and its entanglement in this material body was explained. So we have seen how Krishna explains about various dimensions of soul and the body, how both are being combined, and what are the differences between soul and this matter, right? And then how to get out of this metal enchantment or by buddhi yoga or by devotional service. That was also explained therein. And again in 3rd chapter, it was explained that a person who is situated on the platform of knowledge no longer has any duties to perform. And in the 4th chapter, the Lord told Arjuna that all kind of sacrificial work culminate in knowledge. And however, at the end of 4th chapter, Lord advised Arjuna to wake up and fight, being situated in perfect knowledge, and thereby simultaneously stressing the importance of both work in devotion and in inaction in knowledge. So both is there, working is there with devotion. And we discussed about inaction. What is that? Akarma. So doing activity, but still that activity is not binding us. And Prabhupada mentioned that Krishna has perplexed Arjuna and confused his determination. So Arjuna understands that renunciation in knowledge involves cessation of all kinds of work performed by sense activities. But if one performs work in devotional service, then how is work stopped? So in other words, he thinks that sannyasa or renunciation in knowledge should be altogether free from all kinds of activity, because work and renunciation appear to him to be incompatible. He appears not to have understood that work in full knowledge in non-reactive and is therefore the same as in inaction. He inquires therefore whether we should cease from work altogether or work with full knowledge. So if you remember, while we were discussing akarma, karma and vikarma, there also we discussed about 2 types of akarma. One akarma is what? Abandoning of work, not working at all, right? Giving up the work. And we understood from many verses that that's very difficult, because to maintain our body, we'll have to work, right? And the second meaning of akarma, we understood is that working as a sacrifice to Vishnu, as an offering to Vishnu, and being detached, not working for sense gratification, and that in that way still we work, but we are not getting his reactions. So it makes Arjuna ask the question again. So can you please clear me that what is better, working with devotion or renouncing work? So Arjuna thought that So basically, Krishna says that detachment in your work with knowledge. So get the knowledge and be detached with the fruits of the knowledge, or basically we can say as the uh, be detached to enjoy the results of your action with knowledge. However, Arjuna understood that giving of the work itself. So that's how he asks a question, and Krishna is going to clear it. Right? Let's see. And here in Bhurajan Prabhu explains nicely that he says that it's Krishna's plan that Arjuna remained confused because their dialogue is actually taking place for. So as Krishna and Arjuna, they discuss this point, we living entity, we normal common people, they get benefited, and hence Arjuna was somehow being perplexed by Krishna's. So let's see second verse. Right. So now Krishna explains what to do, what not to do. Right. Again, Krishna actually he will be stressing the same thing in a different way. We have seen the same in chapter 2, in chapter 3, and chapter 4 as well. But Krishna is stressing more for Arjuna to recommending him to work, basically, rather than giving of the work. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Sannyasa Karma Yogascha Nishreha Karava Ubhau Tayor tu Karma Sannyasat Karma Yoga Visishyate. The personality of Godhead replied, the renunciation of work and work in devotion are both good for liberation. Right. So, two things: renunciation of work and work in devotion, both are good for liberation. But of the two, work in devotion or devotional service is better than the renouncing work. Right. So, Arjuna says that Krishna, please, in the very first verse, he says, Bruhi sunishchitam. So please tell me definitely that which is Shreya, which is Shreyas, which is better than these two. And Krishna says in second verse that both renunciation of the work as well as work in devotion, both are good. Both are good for liberation. However, Krishna is actually, he is recommending Arjuna that work in devotional service is better than renunciation of work. It means that Krishna is actually indicating to all of us as well, that working with devotion is much better. It's actually easier, you would say, and it's a it's a safer, easier, and more practical. Right. So that is how Krishna is recommending that working in knowledge, because working with knowledge purifies our heart. And as we discussed in chapter 4, that Krishna says that you cut down all the knots of your doubts by this knowledge. So when we have this knowledge, and even Krishna gives one more example, like doing sacrificing without knowledge and sacrificing with knowledge. So with knowledge, doing sacrifice is much better than sacrificing without knowledge. So working with knowledge is superior than working without knowledge. And here Krishna says that giving of the work or renunciation of work and work in devotion, both are good for liberation, but devotional service or karma yoga or niskam karma yoga, more precisely, is much better than renouncing of the work. Right. And Prabhupada mentions a nice point in this purport. It's a long one, but let's try to read some of those. Prabhupada says that fruitive activities or basically seeking sense gratification are cause of material bondage. And we have been repeatedly understanding this point, that we are entangled in the circle of birth, death, old age, and disease because of seeking sense gratification. So as long as one is engaged in activities aimed at improving the standard of bodily comfort, one is sure to transmigrate from different types of bodies. So as long as we think ourselves as this body, as long as we try to make our more comfortable things, but still what's happening? We are binding ourselves in the cycle of Janamritu Jaravyadi. And hence, Prabhupada's quote from Srimad Bhagavatam, it says, people are mad after sense gratification, and they do not know what They do not know that this present body, which is full of miseries, is a result of our fruitive activities in the past. So whatever right now we are, either we are suffering or we are enjoying. So when we work, when we do an activity, it has two things. Either we'll do a sinful activity or we'll do some pious activity. We acquire pious results that we enjoy, and if you do sinful activity, we acquire sinful reactions, so we have to suffer. So this cycle, or whatever we have in this condition today, is all because of our previous activities in the past. And although this body is temporary, it is always giving one trouble in many ways. And we have seen that this body gives us trouble, especially in the three ways: Adidevik, Adhyatmik, and Adibhautik. By our own body, we get trouble. We get trouble by our surroundings. We get trouble by natural calamities. So, therefore, to act for sense gratification is not good. Right? And one is considered to be a failure in life as long as he makes no inquiry about his real identity. So, the human birth which we have given by Lord, that is for inquiring our real identity. Who am I? Isn't it? We treat ourselves as our body, but we need to inquire about who I am. Right? That's very, very important thing. And as long as he does not know his real identity, he has to work for fruitive results of sense gratification. So this is basically, we can say, ignorance. I don't know who am I, but I'm still engaged in all the activities of my sense gratification, and then I am binding. I'm actually, in this life, I'm preparing for my next life, because it is being said, the life which we are either suffering or enjoying in this life is actually is a result of our past lives, not just one, past many, many, many lives. And now the way we are living in this life, actually we are preparing our next life, right? And hence, as long as one is engrossed in the consciousness of sense gratification, one has to transmigrate from one body to another. What the result? What to do? Isn't it? That's the question. And although the mind may be engrossed in fruitive activities and influenced by ignorance, one must try to develop love for devotional service to Vasudeva. So this is the way by which actually gradually we can clear all these things. What to do? We need to somehow or other develop love for devotional service to Vasudeva. So we have discussed many times that the real identity of a jiva, of a living entity, is what? Jiva Swarupa hai Nitya Krishna Radha. So gradually we need to develop that attitude to serve Krishna's lotus feet with devotional service, right? And then only then can one have the opportunity to get out of this bondage of material existence. So there is no other way to get out of this material existence, or basically the bondage of material existence, which binds us in the cycle of birth and death. And what the way towards that? One must develop a love for devotional service to Vasudeva. In Bhagavatam it's being nicely said, Save pumsam paro dharmo yato bhakti adhokshaje ahituki apratiyata ye atmasu prasiddhati. Right? So Save pumsam paro dharmo, so the highest dharma of Purusha or living entity is what? Yato bhakti adhokshaje, is to serve the lotus feet of Lord Adhokshaja or Krishna. And even there is one more verse that's basically very, very similar to here. It's being said as although the mind may be engrossed in fruitive activities and influenced by ignorance, one must develop a love for Lord. That's akama sarva kama va moksha kama udharadi tibrena bhakti yogena yajite purusham param. So even if we have akama, there is no desire. If we have kama, there is so much desire to be fulfilled. Right? Kama sarva kama, moksha kama. Even if we are seeking for liberation, whatever the case, have no desire or have full of desires or seeking for liberation, in all the cases, what to do? Tibrena bhakti yogena, with full determination, bhakti yogena, do bhakti yoga for Lord Hari, Lord Vishnu. Right? So that's the way we can get out of this material existence. Right. So that's why Krishna, the point Prabhupada mentioned about this working is that devotional service is because Arjuna has questioned and Krishna says that both are good for liberation. So renunciation of work as well as work in devotion, both are lifting us towards liberation. However, work is better than renunciation of work. That's Krishna says. Right. And one more thing Prabhupada mentions in the last of this purport. He says that it's from Bhakti Rasamachandra, the very nice verse. This Prapanchikataya buddhya harishambandhiya vastuna mumukshu vipati parityago vairagam phalgu kathet. So when a person's eager to achieve liberation, renounce things, see the point, renounce things related to Supreme Personality of Godhead, thinking them to be material, their renunciation is called incomplete. So two things here, one is renunciation and one is working with devotion. So when we renounce something and think that these activities or the things related to Supreme Personality of Godhead, related to Krishna, thinking those as material, renounce, that is incomplete. Right? This calls Phalgu Vairagya or Phalgu Vairagya. Right? So that's why even if you follow the path of renunciation, at the end we'll have to culminate living devotional service towards Lord Krishna. Right? That will be fulfill the real path of Jnana Yoga as well. Right? So having said that, Krishna says that yes, you are correct, working in devotion. Arjuna asks question, working in devotion or renunciation of the work. Krishna says both awards liberation, both provides the same result. However, this path of devotional service, path of Nishkam Karma Yoga, that is recommended for you, and that is more easier because anyway he was Kshatriya and he has to fight the war, right? So that's is the recommendation from Krishna. Let's see third verse, what Krishna says. Again, Krishna is going to elaborate more on this topic going ahead, but he gave the conclusion that devotional service is better than renunciation of work. If you remember, in earlier, Krishna says that if you are qualified for renunciation, then also you should work. Why? To set a right example in the society, isn't it? And Prabhupada mentions that renunciation without proper understanding or without proper knowledge, it's an havoc to the society. So we should have proper knowledge before renunciation of the things. Text 3. Geyam sa nitya janyasi yona deshtina kangshati nirdvendo hi mahabaho sukham bandhat pramuchyate. A person who neither hates nor desires the fruits of the activities is known as always renounced. See, this is the definition of renunciation. What is renunciation? One who neither hates nor desires the fruits of his activities is known to be always renounced. It means, if you remember, earlier also we discussed that we need not to give up our activities. We need not to give our work. We need to give the attachment to the results of the work, or basically to give the mentality to enjoy the results of the work. Rather, offer the results of the work to Lord Hari. Right? That Krishna speaks in chapter 3, chapter 4 as well. And now Krishna is saying that who is the person who is renounced? Even a person who is in our grahastha life, he has to work for taking care of his body, taking care of his family, taking care of society, everything. He has to work. But when the person has the mentality of neither hating nor desire the fruits of his activities, so what he is doing, whatever he gets, he neither hates nor desires these fruits of the activity, is called as renounced. He remains on this platform of renounced, though he is working. That's the context of akarma. He's working, but still he's renounced. He's not getting any foundation for that. So such a person, free from all dualities, easily overcomes material bondage and is completely liberated. And so Same point is being repeated, but in different context, isn't it? So this is called as Nitya Sannyasi. Though still he is working, but he is completely liberated. And Prabhupada says, one who is fully in Krishna consciousness is always renunciation because he feels neither hatred nor desire for the results of his action. And such a renuncier dedicated to the transcendental loving service of the Lord is fully qualified in knowledge because he knows that his constitutional position in his relationship with Krishna. So we know that we are never independent. We are actually dependent on Krishna. And he knows fully well that Krishna is the whole and that he is part and parcel of Krishna. We know that we are the parts and parcel of Krishna. That we understood in chapter 3, and Krishna is going to speak the same thing as well. So this is a complete understanding of knowledge that yes, I am the part of Krishna, and my identity is to serve him, Krishna, serve his lotus feet. Right. So that's how Krishna says any person who stands in this way, or basically you can say is he is kind of equipoised. He is not reacting to happiness or honor, dishonor kind of things, right? And at the end, his mind has no duality in his mind because whatever he does for Krishna. So when person act in this way of Krishna consciousness, when he offers his results of his activities to Krishna, he is completely satisfied. And that's why he's called as Nitya Sannyasi. Though he living in this in the Grahastha, but still he is Sannyasi because he is giving up everything for the Krishna. And then in this way, he is freed from the dualities. He is liberated, even in this material world. So being in this material world, we can be liberated. There is no need to go to Himalayas only to be liberated. By acting by instruction of Krishna, when we work, it is much more better. And if you remember in early chapter 4, it says mithyachara. So if someone renounces something, still he has a desire to enjoy, he is a mithyachara, because outwardly he is showing that I have renounced, but internally in his heart he has so much of desire to be fulfilled. That's not good, right? Let's see Krishna what he says more on this point. Now Krishna is going to explain the same thing in a more elaborate way, but again concluding with Krishna has showed that working is much better than renunciation of the work. Text 4. Sankhya yoga prithak bhala pravadanti na panditaha ekam avi asthitah samyag ubayor vintante phalam. So this text is again a very nice one. He says, only the ignorant speak of devotional service or karma yoga as being different from the analytical study of material world or Sankhya. Those who are actually learned say that he who applies himself well to one of these paths achieves the result of both. So in text 2 also Krishna says, text 2 what Krishna says, that renunciation of work and work in devotion both are good for liberation. However, our work in devotion is better. And Krishna says that the person who is ignorant, they only speak that there is a difference between karma yoga or devotional service and Sankhya yoga or Jnana yoga, because the aim of Jnana yoga is actually to find the existence of the soul. So what is Jnana yoga or what is analytical study? Sankhya, basically Sankhya is what? Sankhya means counting. So counting is this is another process to realize or to understand the existence of soul. So if you know, remember you are discussing Bhagavatam, there also discussed that there are so many ways people analyze things, like there are 24 elements or 3 elements or 9 elements. So we are made of this body, this Pancha Mahabhut, there is a life air going on, there is a sense of knowledge acquiring senses, right? So in this way there are so many different ways by which we conclude things, but at the end the knowledge goes towards what? Finding the real existence of the soul. And then we understand that once we find this soul, we understand that this soul is actually somehow connected to super soul. So basically, that is real Sankhya. And devotional service is what? So in Sankhya, we are trying to connect to soul and super soul indirectly by taking so many troubles in studying the Vedas and understanding things by our, maybe if we are not well intelligent, we might not be able to understand. So it will go towards our next life and next life to get to this perfection over there. However, in devotional service, we are connecting to with Krishna directly. So there is a way. There's a 100-story building. There is a way we can go toward by walking on the stairs, and there is also option to go in a lift. So when you press the button on the lift, we can go directly to 100th floor. But if you want to take the stairs, it will take time. So the other process towards the goal is the same, but the other process, it takes more time and energy. But devotional service, it will get directly interaction with Krishna. The Prabhupada mentions here, let's see, says the soul of the material world is Vishnu, or the super soul, and devotional service to the Lord entails service to the supreme soul, super soul. So one process is to find the root of the tree, and the other is the water the root. So the real students of Sankhya philosophy find the root of the material world, Vishnu, and then in perfect knowledge engage himself in the service of the Lord. So even by studying analytically, we find the root, and then we engage in service. However, but in the process of devotional service, we directly come in contact with Krishna and start serving to Krishna. So therefore, in a sense, there is no difference between the two, because the aim of the both is Vishnu. And importantly, those who do not know the ultimate end say that the purpose of Sankhya and Karma Yoga are not the same. But one who is learned knows that unifying aim in this different process. So Krishna is claiming again that, I think he's making us more clearer that the process of Sankhya Yoga and Niskam Karma Yoga, at the end, we need to get the Vishnu. So in Sankhya Yoga, we have to go through so many different processes, perfect our knowledge, and then at the end, engage ourselves in the service of Lord Vishnu. If you remember in Srimad Bhagavatam, Kapila Deva, he gives the instruction to Mother Devhuti. There also he says the same thing, that the end result of the Sankhya Yoga analytical study is to understand Vishnu. Right? And Bhakti Yoga, by this directly we connect with Vishnu. Right? So Krishna's answer is basically, if you see, is very, very clear and consistent across chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5 as well, that working with devotional service is much, much more better than renouncing the work or trying to other process of this self-realization. Right. We'll take two more verses, 5 and 6. Again, text 4 and text 5 are kind of nearly the same. Let's see. And here it says what it says in chapter 4, in verse 4, about the people who is ignorant. The one who is ignorant, he only says that Karma Yoga, Niskama Karma Yoga, devotional service is different from Sankhya Yoga, because they might not be knowing the ultimate end of Sankhya Yoga. So, text 5. Yat Sankhya prapte sthanam tad yoger api gamyate ekam sankhyam cha yogam cha yat pashyati sa pashyati. One who knows that the position reached by the means of analytical study can also be attained by devotional service, and who therefore sees analytical study and devotional service to be on the same platform, same level, sees things as they are. So in the previous verse, it's being said that the one who discriminate or differentiate between the end result of analytical study and devotional service, he is ignorant. But one who sees things, or who understand that the result obtained by devotional service and result obtained by analytical study is the same, so he could able to see things as they are. And Prabhupada nicely start the purpose saying that The real purpose of all philosophical search is to find the ultimate goal of life. This is the real essence of our life, isn't it? To understand what the real ultimate goal of life. Ultimate goal of life is not about just engaging ourselves in sense gratification. Ultimate goal of the life is what? Ultimate goal of life is self-realization. Understanding, who am I? Inquiring about ourselves. These animals, though they are living entity, but they cannot inquire about self. These trees, the plant, they are also living entity, but they cannot inquire about self. It is the only kind of intelligence provided to human being so that they can inquire about a self. If you see, there are so many animals, they are much more intelligent even from the human beings. If you see the dogs, they work for CIDs, right? So we are not comparing with that knowledge, but the real knowledge about inquiring who am I, or what is the ultimate goal of life, that can only be done by human being. Right? And there is no difference between the conclusion reached by the true process and by Sankhya philosophy research. One come to the conclusion that a living entity is not a part and parcel of the material world, but of the supreme spirit world. So the real understanding of philosophical search, what? He is not from this matter, is actually spiritual spark. And consequently, the spiritual soul has nothing to do with this material world. That's basically the conclusion of philosophical research. And his action must be in relation to the supreme. And thus, and when a person acts in Krishna consciousness, he's actually working in his constitutional position, because Jivara Swarupa hai Nitya Krishna Radas. So as we start devotional service directly, we can reach on the same platform, or we can go by the lift and reach the 100th floor as well. Right. So Prabhupada concludes saying that this discussion, factually, both processes are the same, although superficially one process appears to involve detachment, and other process appears to involve attachment. Detachment from matter and attachment to Krishna are one and the same. And one who sees this sees things as they are. So if you if you remember earlier, we were discussing about how can we become detached. So everywhere it's being says that we need to be detached. But how to detach? When we attach ourselves to Krishna, we naturally become detached. So there is a small nice book in this, basically that's in a cookbook, is called as the higher taste. Right. So when we get higher taste, gradually we give up this lower taste things. We have taken an example earlier, like listening a song, right? How long can you listen a song? For a month, for a 2 month, but as soon as you get a new song comes in the market, the older songs get parked and we start listening the new one, isn't it? Because now we have got taste from the newer song, so old song gets got away. In a similar way, when we get the higher taste of serving to lotus feet of Krishna, then this lower service of material world becomes inferior. And we as we are living entity, we are soul. The real nature is that we have to serve someone. Either we serve Krishna or we serve Maya. Either we serve devotional service, or we serve for these material things. We have to serve. We cannot survive without serving. Right. So it's good to serve Krishna, and by serving Krishna, detachment follows itself. Right. And let's see the last verse. In verse 6 is basically more or less Krishna concluding this section, where it says, Sannyashtu mahabaho dukkham aptum ayogatah yoga yukta muni brahma na chirena adhikachati. So very important point, merely renouncing all activities yet not engaging in devotional service of the Lord cannot make one happy. So renunciation of the work without proper knowledge or without engaging in devotional service is not going to give us happy. So giving up something without connecting things to Krishna is futile. It's not going to give us anything. However, but a thoughtful person engage in devotional service can achieve the supreme without delay. Right. So this again kind of basically summarizes the second verse where Krishna says that, if you see the second verse, Krishna says that both are good. However, work in devotions is better than the renunciation of work. So in sixth verse, Krishna says that even that if we somehow or other try to renounce things, but not engaging in devotional service of the Lord, we are not going to get happy. So that will going to create disturbances in a society. Because why? We may think, okay, I am by this knowledge of jnana or by becoming detached from something, I'm going towards liberation. But ultimately, if the desire of our heart is still looking for something else, then we are diverted. If we are not connecting ourselves with Krishna, Krishna spoke in previous verses as well, that we have to engage things in devotional service. So if we do not engage ourselves towards activities toward the devotional service, then just giving up the things is not going to work. Just detachment only is not going to work. It has to be some attachment. And Prabhupada many times says that we are living entity, and without desire, this living entity is almost a dead body, isn't it? We can't live without desire. We have so many desires, isn't it? So when we divert the desire toward devotional service, that's following the path where we get no reactions, isn't it? Still looks to be engaged in the same thing. We have discussed many times earlier that still a devotee looks to be same thing. He's going to office, he's working, he's getting money, he's enjoying, but both has two different things, isn't it? A same person going to office, earning money and spending his money in the pub. And the same person as a devotee, he's going to office, earning money, but he is dancing in front of Lord's lotus feet, or dancing in the temple. He's engaging his money in service of the Lord. So both our activities are same, but there's a difference. And I think we were discussing earlier that a person dancing in a pub and a person dancing in the temple, activities are same. Both are jumping, both are dancing on their feet, but result what they are getting are completely different, isn't it? One is actually burning his karma, burning his reactions, and on the other way, one is entangling his more and more in this cycle of birth and death, right? So that's from first to sixth verses, Krishna conclude that, I'll conclude it saying that both working with devotion and renunciation of the work both gives liberation. However, work in devotional service is better for us, better for Arjuna as well. He recommended, and at the end, Krishna concludes that even giving up the work without attachment or engaging in devotional service is not good. Right? It is actually, by that we will not be happy. But the real essence of detachment or giving up the things is to become happy, isn't it? To be blissful. But when we engage ourselves in devotional service, we remain blissful. Okay, so we'll continue from verse 7 on Friday. Any questions or any thoughts? We can take some. Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Prabhu, one question. See, Prabhu, when you say detach from things, let me give you a very practical example and ask you something with relevant to it. See, today I have a car, and I want to go for a bigger car. I am earning for it and I am paying it. I am not asking money from anyone. I am not trying to fool anyone. I'm not trying to cheat anyone. I'm spending my hard-earned money, and I'm going for a good car. How can I connect the same work in the devotional service of Lord?
It's very, very easy, Prabhu. it's the same like we discussed about a person going to pub and dancing and a person going to temple and enjoying, right? So in the similar way, it's Krishna never says that we should not work. Krishna never says that we should not have money, isn't it? Let's put our things, right? So even Prabhupada always recommended that we should be engaged in our activities wherever we are. So and very, very important thing, it's a Damodar Damodar month going on, and we all know that Lord Krishna was being bound by these ropes, right? And Acharyas explained that while Mother Yashoda was binding Krishna with the ropes, it was always 2 fingers short, always 2 fingers short. And this 2 finger, why 2 fingers short? And Mother Yashoda brought all the ropes even from the neighbors, and while she was trying to bind Krishna, she could not put the knot. There's always 2 fingers short. And the Acharya explained this very nicely, that this 2 fingers short is what? One is endeavor. As a living entity, we have to make endeavor. Without endeavor, nothing going to come, right? And second is very, very important, is mercy of Lord. So without mercy of Lord also, we cannot get anything. So both things needs to be there. So if you think that if I can have a bigger car, and if Krishna wishes you work hard, get money, get a car, no problem, that's fine. It's not wrong that we'll have money, right? So it's not at all wrong to have money, to have car, to have big bungalows. But the important thing is that how are we utilizing it? If we are utilizing it for like, for going temples, as Ambrish Maharaj says, use your hands for cleaning temple, use your ears for hearing Krishna Katha, use your words, mouth to take Krishna Prasadam, use your tongue to speak about Krishna, use your legs to go to temple. So if we in that way we are using our life or whatever assets we have, then we are on a right path towards perfection, toward liberation. And if we are using it just for our sense gratification, then we are binding ourselves, nothing else, isn't it? So the point is, it's not about having good car or bigger car. That, as for we understand that everything is given by Krishna only. So
No, it's just that I want to put into perspective, like, since we are saying that renunciation, so we should not renounce our daily work. We should do whatever we are doing, and at the same time we should engage ourselves in the devotional activity of the Lord. So I'm just giving you an example, like if we are going for something, if we are buying something, if we are living our life happily, if we are, how can we engage in the devotional service of God at the same time? No, I got your question, I got the answer, what you said. That's what my question was.
No, that's fine. Yes, Prabhu. That's it. Basically, very nicely, I'll say one very nice thing I've said earlier, but it's nice one. One devotee, I think it was His Holiness Yogendra Maharaj, he was saying. So one devotee went to him and he says, Maharaj, how can we become happy? Right. So Maharaj says, how many family members do you have? He says, we are 3, my wife, my kid. Then Maharaj says, okay, make it 4. So normally include Krishna, finished. So make it 4. People say, okay, Krishna, like you're saying to have 1 more children. The point was, bring Krishna, bring Laddu Gopal, bring Jagannath to your home and start serving him. Yes. So you have a house, you have a bigger house, that's very nice. So you can make a nice altar. We can have kirtan every day in the morning, in the evening. That home itself turned to a temple. So that's why we are doing devotional service, right? So that's how we can engage our assets, our properties, our whatever positions we have to Krishna. With the point is that to understand that whatever we have is only possible by the mercy of Krishna. There is no other way. There is no other possibility. Even see sun is sunlight is all Krishna's mercy only. Without sun we cannot survive. The breathing process, that's mercy of Krishna. Right.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, so thank you everyone. We'll continue tomorrow our book reading session for 3 days, and then on Friday we'll continue from verse 7. And as I said, this is the Kartik month, so I would request if you can take some time for lamp offering to Lord, it will be very, very much beneficial for everyone. Okay, and we are all okay to come to your home one day and
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everybody.
Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki
Jai.
Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki
Jai.
Hare Krishna.